Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I haven't heard or I haven't read so many euphemisms used in one article in a long time. I think it competes with Orwell's 1984 dystopian novel. It's unbelievable. We have here a European official from the European Union, a very important position, and he makes some claims, and he uses certain kind of terms that looks like a doublespeak. It's unbelievable. Or euphemisms. You see the condition, but he makes it appear like the term that he uses is really not what the condition is. It's unbelievable. And that's why I thought is very funny, I guess, to read this article, and you see how these people get in certain positions and they can think like this. All right, so let's get going. This article comes from Associated Press and is from January 27, 23. EU official, this is the guy, says that Russia shifts war focus to NATO and the West. Did you hear that? So Russia shifts its focus from Ukraine towards NATO and the West. I wonder why. Now, this weasel right here, this weasel will try to make us believe that actually Russia just, dreamt about NATO being around and, no reason, nothing. It just focuses on NATO and the West for no reason. All right, let's see what this weasel is saying. So, a senior EU official said Friday that Russia has taken its war against Ukraine to a different stage, end quote, by making indiscriminate attacks on civilians and non-military targets. Hey, buddy, allegedly, these guys, which is the Russians, have been doing this from the beginning of the war. So what's the different stage? When did that happen? 3 days ago when you woke up? While criticizing Moscow for triggering recent moves by Germany and the United States to send advanced tanks to Ukraine. Oh, what is Germany and the United States doing in Ukraine? So who inserted in whose business? Anyway, this guy's, ta-da, weasel, this guy's name is, right here, Stefano Sannino. He is the Secretary General of the European Union's European External Action Service. Did you hear? So he is the Secretary General of the European Union's European External Action Service. Oh my God, that was long. Defended German and US provisions of the military equipment to Ukraine, and criticized Russian President Vladimir Putin for waging a war on NATO and the West. I wonder why. I mean, is NATO and the West, are they involved in Ukraine? No. And if they are, therefore they are the forces of the good. So, Sannino, speaking at the news conference in Tokyo as part of an Asia-Pacific tour, said Putin had, and I'm quoting, moved from a concept of special operation to a concept now of a war against NATO and the war. Can I ask, how did that occur to Putin? So when he wanted to destroy Ukraine, right? Boom, boom. How did he just, I'm going to attack and do something. I'm going to focus now on NATO and European Union, who are just sitting over there grazing in the sun. Is that what it is? Is that what happened? Saldino, Sotino, Saparino? I think so. So just put in I think I'm going to attack those guys, rummaging over there on the meadows. Not flashing meadows, but in the meadows in the sun, grazing. Unbelievable. Let's read further what Mr. Salantino, whatever his name is, Sannino, says. He said, Sannino, German and US tanks provisions are meant to help Ukrainians. Now we start with doublespeak. defend themselves in the war rather than making them attackers. So the tanks don't kill. They're just defensive, just to block. The tanks block attacks. The tanks block the Russian attacks. Did you hear? They're meant to help Ukrainians defend themselves. Therefore, German and US tanks, NATO and the West, is not involved. Russia should just ignore that. And I'm gonna quote Sanino's reasoning here. I think, oh my God, you think that this latest development in terms of armed supply is just an evolution of the situation. It's just an evolution. So he thinks that the supply from the West and NATO, they just realized that he needs to focus on them for whatever crazy reason. It's just, it's just an evolution of the situation, and of the way Russia started moving the war into a different stage. What do you mean? So just Putin started killing now civilians and all that, and all of a sudden the other guys just intervened and Russia is supposed to ignore them or something. Because NATO and and the West, they're not involved actually. It's just natural for them to get involved in someone else's business, good or bad. Anyway, Sanino said, he added that Russia is making indiscriminate attacks on civilians and cities and no longer military targets. No longer, according to what? To Ukrainska Pravda, to New Voice of Ukraine, to Kiev Independent, to what? Associated Press, to whom? The EU is not moving the war into a different stage. No. But is just, and I'm quoting, just giving the possibility of saving lives and allowing the Ukrainians to defend themselves from these barbaric attacks. So the EU is not moving the war into a different stage by providing them tanks, howitzers, aircraft pretty soon, HIMARS, armored vehicles. No. This is not moving in a different stage. No. By giving, it's just giving the possibility, these are euphemisms, just giving the possibility of saving lives and allowing the Ukrainians to defend themselves from these barbaric attacks. Why don't you give them shields then? If you just send them to defend themselves. Just shields, bang, bang. Why do you give them slingshots? Oh, okay, because those guys are just barbarians, right? Yes. Remember, barbarian attacks. Anyway, what is strange about, not strange, shallow, I think, in this guy's brain, is the simplicity of the way he looks at these things. So he looks, the Russians attack only civilian infrastructure and civilians. Only. Is that 100%? All right. Yeah, I know that Ukrainska Pravda and these guys every day since February 24th, 2022 state that the Russians blow up and do this and that. Okay, they might do it. They might do it. Maybe they do it. It's wrong. It's wrong. But I have a question, Salmani, or whatever your name is. Do you think that Ukraine did not kill any civilian on the other side? Any? Don't tell me accidentally. I just made a video today where the Russians claim, for instance, that the Ukrainians use HIMARS provided by the United States of America, and supposedly the HIMARS are fired only with the approval of the Americans. That's what the Ukrainians said. Anyway, I made a video today. So those blew up in a hospital today. 14 people dead, 24 injured. How about those guys? Is that an accident? Okay, it's an accident, but you apply a rule here, accident, is this the only one? Let me give you another example, Salmani or whatever your name is. Remember when there were about, 12 or 15 Russians that surrendered on tape to the Ukrainians? Remember that one? And they were all laying on their bellies, face down, with their hands here, remember? It's on camera. The Ukrainians posted it. And then a crazy guy comes and tries to shoot the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians kill him. And then whomever kills all those Russians on laying down, face down like this, they kill them all. Then you have drones taking pictures of those things with bloody Russians down, the ones that surrendered to the Ukrainians. How do you call that? Salmanini, Kapalini, barbaric? So you see, bringing the word to a different stage, it's not only one side and the other one is angel. I mean, as long as you're familiar with wars, if you read about them, if you've been involved in them, if you're familiar with the human nature under certain situations, I'm not justifying that whatsoever, but I'm trying to say a crime here, if the same thing is here, we're gonna call it a crime. Okay, not because these are our boys. And besides, who attacked who? Russia attacked Ukraine, correct? Yeah. And then how did NATO and the West, how did they get into all this? Did Russia ask them? No, they inserted themselves. So how in the hell Putin switched his focus on them by what? By, as I said, grazing in the sun on the meadows? Is that what it is? And how did they start? They started with those juveniles, right? Juveniles, bam, bam, bam. They started with that. Now that was a direct involvement in the war. That's how a normal person would interpret that. And I'm going to give you. And the first bullet that you provided my enemy with to kill me and my group, that means you're actively involved. Because without that bullet, my men, my people would not die. So the first bullet those guys sent, juvenile, the juvenile they sent, those are direct. And then after that they sent what? Howitzers? Right, what's that? HIMARS? Armored vehicles? Tanks? Now they're going to send F-16s. Do you see a little bit of an escalation, Mr. Babalaba? And the reasons that you mentioned that the Russians escalated to a different stage, the Ukrainians claim that with Bucha. Remember Bucha? Remember? In Kiev, that was in March 2022, when the Russians came around Kiev and then they retreated towards Belarus. They said that was a war crime right there, and they killed them. There was a war crime right there. Not only that, and then they destroyed infrastructure. Do you remember the Kerch Bridge incident? The Crimean Bridge? Who blew that up? The Russians? You can say, well, we don't know. Well, the Russians said that the Ukrainians did it. As the Ukrainians say that the Russians blow up kindergarten and all that. So if the Ukrainians blew up the Kerch Bridge, which was a civilian infrastructure, oh, it's used by the military. Well, air is used by the military as well. What are they going to do about it? And besides, roads are used by the military as well. Are you going to blow up all the roads? You know, water is used by the military. Are you going to poison their, water treatment plants? Are you going to do that? Electricity is used. Are you going to blow them their all the power stations? Remember, when NATO did that to Yugoslavia in 1999, that's how they argued. How I just did. Well, the military uses electricity, so that's a valid point to hit. Well, they use bridges, so yeah, it's a valid. That's how NATO said. You can find it. So, Mr. Soledar, or whatever your name is, you're a weasel. That's what you are. But it's okay. Doublespeak and euphemisms. What I'm trying to say is, if you want to be taken seriously, you call it as it is here, the same as it is here. The same action, you call it with the same name. A crime here is, and a crime here is a crime. Crime. But no, you say crime, angel, crime, angel. And these guys just woke up and then they focus on NATO and the West. Because NATO and West, they just give tanks so these guys can defend us and save lives. All right. Well, I guess that it has. Some people have their own e-logic. Anyway, this is a. Do you remember his little? What was his title? Secretary General of the European Union's European External Action Service. How much money is this guy making? How much power does this guy have? How many ladies of the night this guy bangs on other people's money? I wonder. I mean, really? And he talks like that. For me, it's clear this guy is either a shallow-minded, but is very sneaky and ruthless. Sneaky in a certain way, because if you follow the law and someone cuts in front of you, he was not necessarily smarter, but he was as he was, and he's gonna get the point B before you get. Was he smarter? No, because you thought about that too, but you followed the law. He didn't. So that's why these sneaky guys will say, well, I was just smart, I was sneaky. No, you weren't. You just broke the law. You just broke the rules. That I thought about it too. How do you know I didn't think about it? I thought thought about it like 50 years before you did, but I didn't do it because I said I'm following the law, the rules of the game. Stupid me, I guess, because we got Mr. Soledad here in charge of that big thing, and he thinks the way he thinks, or lack of, the way he's thinking. Believe me, I've seen like this many in person, and this and not only. And believe me, those guys over there, when you see them beautiful dressed with all that and very diplomatic, they're not better than us. They're not better than us whatsoever. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because I'm sick of doing this. I'm sick of seeing these mediocrities, these mediocre individuals being in charge or saying shit, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, look at him." No, he's dumb, or is something else, or both. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.